Hey everyone, so today I'm going to talk to you about different stocks that you could invest in that will actually help you possibly later on in your life. This is actually a very exciting time because there is so much that is being developed right now to allow us humans to be able to live longer. And I really like what I do, so I personally would love to live forever as long as I'm healthy and I don't have cancers for 100 years. That would suck, but if we can live healthy for hundreds of years, this is actually quite an interesting sector of the market. And these stocks are actually quite small right now. So the technology that I'm actually going to be talking about is called CRISPR. This is basically a DNA structure that basically what they're going to do and what they can do and what they are currently doing studies on is being able to go into your actual DNA and remove portions or edit portions so that you can now be potentially immune to things like cancer, immune to things like diabetes so it doesn't affect you and doesn't happen to you. And then later on, they are going to be developing things that will allow us to live longer and potentially forever. This is actually quite interesting. So there is parts of our DNA and our structure called telomeres, and the shorter those are, the older we get. And now if we can basically edit those to always be long, we could potentially be 30 years old for the rest of our lives. So basically, this is quite interesting. These are the companies that are currently in this field, and basically I'm going to be breaking them down, and the reason why I'm making this video is because there is huge potential growth. There is no dividends right now. I don't think you would want to have a company that's growing, paying a dividend anyways, but also some tips on how you can go about in the biomedical field so that you can also make a ton of money on not just these stocks, but other stocks as well. So the first stock is CRISPR. This is literally the company that developed the technology at first. Now, of course, they are not making a ton of money right now, but their volume is quite high at 800,000 shares traded per day, and their current market cap is about $8.7 billion. Now, if we really compare this to some of the bigger technologies of today, which is Tesla, this is a huge deal. This could 10x be worth $87 billion and still nowhere be close to the value of something like a Tesla. So this is huge growth potential. Their chart has also gone ridiculous lately. Look back at 2017, 2018, hovering around $25 per share, and now look at it, hovering at $115 to $120, and then also capped out around $200. Now, do I think that this could fall a bit more? Yeah, there was some stabilization here, and there was also some stabilization here, so this could still fall a bit more. And then as we can see way down here, they are currently not making all that much money. They had a fantastic 2019, but they are currently not making money, and this is a huge downtrend, yet their stock price was going up. Isn't that interesting? Now, this is how you can basically gauge a biomedical company that is growing and currently has no real products on the market. You don't want to invest in a company that's solely just researching. You want to have companies that either have marketed technologies or marketed pharmaceuticals, or you want to have them in at least a clinical stage. So right now they've got 4 products in a clinical stage. They currently have a diabetes type of product coming into clinical stage very soon. And they are currently researching products for these issues right here, which are actually quite big issues for people worldwide. Next is Adidas Medicine. Now, this is another company that does the exact same type of stuff. This one's market cap is $2.3 billion, so of course they may have some room to rise. some of these companies, I'm not too sure which ones, but I was reading that a few of these different companies that are researching this stuff are also developing antiviral drugs so that we are immune to viruses, which is actually quite interesting. So we would actually be basically never have to worry about another pandemic in potentially another 10, 15, 20 years, mainly because of what these companies are currently looking at. Now, I'm not too sure which companies are looking into it. I can't remember. I was reading the article about a month ago, but this type of technology could make it so that we are immune to random viruses. So no more seasonal cold and potentially maybe no more seasonal allergies, which is what I am currently fighting right now. And again, just like all of these companies, they had this spike right here, potentially because of the coronavirus. Everyone was investing in these types of companies because of the next best thing. But everything does, whenever there's this hype, everything comes back down to normal, and it does seem like it's starting to trade back within its normal trading range at the higher end. So here is the pipeline for Eteres. I probably pronounced this way wrong. They are currently in the early stage trials for this one. Of course, I'm not going to get into each individual trials. You can go onto their website and find this out for yourself. They currently have other things that are currently leading into a clinical stage. So this company is a bit earlier on, but at least they do have one product that is in an early clinical stage. You generally want to invest in companies that are in the late stages, but if you want to get in early before they start taking off, if you feel a bit risky, and I always like to say have at least 2 or 3% of your portfolio in risk, because that 2 or 3% could grow exponentially or go to zero. I call it casino money. Basically, if you have 2 or 3% of your portfolio in really risky things, like I would classify this as really risky because it's a new technology, sort of. It's been around for about, I think it's like 20-ish years that it's been around. They've been slowly developing it. And of course, there's more and more money going into this stuff at this point in time because they're getting onto the stock market. Biden is going to be really financing a lot of these different pharmaceutical research companies. So there is going to be a lot of money going into these potentially. But again, 1, 2, or even 3% of your portfolio in something that's a little bit more riskier that could have exponential growth, you're not going to be too worried about something that is only 2% of your portfolio and at the same time is potentially helping future generations of us humans. So this is basically how this technology works. They find the mutated gene, they then find it, they then remove it, they then edit it, they cut it, and then they repair it, and then, of course, you are then immune to whatever the issue is. Next company is Intellia Therapeutics, and from there, a little bit bigger of a company, $5 billion market cap. They have had that spike, and it's actually leveling out at that spike. It's not going back down, which is quite interesting. Volume is huge, by the way. Their 5-year chart did hover at 30, and it did basically plateau before coming back down, so this may be another sign or indicator of something happening over here, potentially some downwards trends. However, we can never guess on a company based on prior results, but if we can go in a bit deeper and say, well, actually this is starting to potentially make a point where if it hits this point, or if it breaks above this point anytime soon, then there may be another round of exponential growth. So we could look at it that way as well. So this is another one with only early clinical trials of their drugs. This is another one of their websites. You can go to these websites and you can actually just click onto these names and you can actually figure out what each one does. However, sometimes they will name it after what it's actually for, and this one's for sickle cell disease. It seems like a lot of these companies are really targeting that disease. Maybe there's a lot of money in it, or a lot of people are actually having issues with it. But this is what I am really excited for, and that is being able to fight cancers, and this is what this is all for. Different types of cancers that will be able to be beat. If we can beat cancer, we can really exponentially make people live longer. Now there is also Pfizer. Pfizer, of course, there's the mRNA, and that is how they can basically edit your RNA in your DNA cells, or I'm not a biomedical person, but RNA and DNA are usually, if I remember back to high school science, are together. I think it's like the opposite sides of the cell or something. I have literally high school level science, so I'm not hugely into this stuff, but at the same time, why I am currently investing in some of these companies is because of the huge future potential of being able to have or help people live longer and not have diseases like diabetes, which is something that runs in my family, as well as cancers. So because of that, I am huge into financing, or at least giving money to these companies, mainly not for a donation but for an investment, because of course I want a piece of that future technology, and I really am excited for this stuff. Pfizer, however, as we know, is an absolutely amazingly huge company, $215 billion market cap. This is huge. Of course, they've had their recent run-up with the Pfizer vaccine. And as we can see here, they have done pretty well. Surprisingly, their revenue and earnings is lower in 2020. I would have thought it would be bigger, but maybe they are now going to be bigger because of 2021 and the Pfizer vaccine for COVID. And then the next one is Regeneron. They are currently the ones who are helping some of these smaller companies, as I was just mentioning earlier, like Idida. They are currently helping them a ton with the research as well as the clinical trials, so they are in on it as well. $53 billion market cap, and of course average trading is huge. They have gone up huge recently, and I think that's going to continue. So of course this is huge. They are also having huge expectations for this upcoming quarter. They have had a great 2020, and I think that this company is set up well into the future. So if you've got family members who are currently having major medical issues, things like cancers and things like that, and if their doctors are currently saying that there's not much that they can do for these patients, what you can do is potentially look at some of these CRISPR companies and really see if they have basically a product that they're currently doing clinical trials or research on, and you may be able to get in on some of this research, and it may just help with the future of humanity. Of course, I am partially into these companies. I do have some investments in these companies, so take my word for what it is, like a grain of salt. Just like any YouTuber, they may be pushing a narrative. I'm telling you the facts behind these companies. I hope that you do your own research, and of course, hit that like button and subscribe. I'll see you guys again next time.